Hey, do you know what's going to happen in just a couple of hours? We're going to have a Major League Baseball game that counts.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If you don't believe me, I can prove it. There's my lower third. It says my name is Sully. I have been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade, and in just a couple hours, we're going to start my sixth full regular season here as a member of the Locked On Podcast Network. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now. And on Instagram, I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And if you are going to be posting on those sites, then let me just ask you, use the hashtag EverydaySully so we have an idea who's listening to us every single day. We're going to be doing some ridiculously early World Series predictions. I'm going to be previewing some of the things that you're going to see on this feed for the next few days. There's going to be a bunch of it's going to be a tidal wave of shows coming on here, including some of my predictions and other people's predictions as well. And oh yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about my suggestion of what some other teams can do, and a proud Sully Baseball old Sully Baseball podcast and old Sully Baseball YouTube channel tradition continues with the In Memoriam video, which has already dropped. Let's go to the trivia question, which was, what city has hosted the most Cleveland postseason clinchers? Now, I made a point to carefully phrase this. The city of Cleveland, whether they're the Spiders, the Naps, the Indians, or the Guardians, whatever they're called, have clinched several postseason series in their history, but very few in front of their home fans. The great run that Mike Hargrove had in the 1990s had a grand total of one home clinching, and their run to the World Series a few years ago had no home clinchings. There have only been 3 times that the Cleveland has clinched a postseason series in their home ballpark, and another city has seen 5 times the Cleveland, actually, truth be told, they were always the Cleveland Indians every time they did this, clinch, whether it was a one-game playoff, a, a postseason series, or a World Series. And what city is that? Well, a couple of people guess all over the map. Some people guess New York. Some people guess Toronto. Roger Molina guessed Boston, and that's correct. Cleveland won a one-game playoff to clinch the pennant in 1948 at Fenway Park. They also clinched the 1995 Division Series at Fenway Park. They clinched the 1998 Division Series at Fenway Park, and they clinched the 2016 Division Series at Fenway Park. If the ball bounced this way or that, they also could have clinched the 99 Division Series and the 07 ALCS at Fenway Park as well. But Fenway Park has seen 4 different Cleveland clinchings. But those of you who are carefully listening heard that I said that city hosted 5 times. What city was that who saw 5 Cleveland clinchings? Well, Mr. Molina is right. It's still Boston. The last time Cleveland won the World Series, they beat the Boston Braves at Braves Field. So the city of Boston, whether it's at Braves Field or at Fenway Park, has been the home for 5 different Cleveland championships. So there you go. The answer is Boston. Well, we're having a soft opening here. The main reason, as I said the other day, I'm not a big fan about starting the season overseas is because it kind of messes up what opening day is. Opening day should be a big celebration that we just start the baseball season. Instead, we're going to have this soft opening. Excuse me, I had to scratch my nose. I'm having a little bit of allergies here. You see the season begins in Seoul in just a few hours, and then everyone goes back to spring training, and then the season's going to start again. That's one of the reasons why I want to see the season start with the All-Star game. I want to see that definitive, here's the start of the year. It's weird when they do it like this, but thankfully they don't do it every single year. And well, it is what it is, and I'm sure it's going to be a huge showing in Seoul. I have no problem, as I said the other day, with going overseas. I like the London series. I like it when they go to Tokyo or Australia, or I'm sure the Seoul series is going to be terrific. I just wish they did it at the middle of the season instead of the start, because I like opening day, boom, being a big thing. That's also time you make predictions, and I launched the In Memoriam video, which I like to do at the beginning of the year, and I toyed with the idea of launching the In Memoriam video on the opening day for all of baseball. But then I thought, well, I don't know. Well, they're my rules. Why can't I bend them? So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to just tell you what's going to be on this site in the next few days. There's going to be an avalanche of division previews. There's going to be one show where they cover the AL East, another one for the Central, for the West, NL East, NL Central, NL West. All the experts from all the different shows are going to be making their picks, and your pal Sully is going to be on there as well. So you're going to see, well, you're going to wake up one morning and there's going to be like 6 new episodes in your feed, and everyone's prediction is going to be on there. I made my picks, and so I'm not going to spoil all the picks, but I'm going to tell you my main picks in terms of, well, my ridiculously early postseason predictions. And here's the deal. I remember earlier in the year, like around January, February, when someone was blathering about how baseball needs a salary cap, which it doesn't. Person said, I was chatting to about baseball, said, it's the same teams winning every year. And I said, no, you're thinking about football. That's not baseball. And he said, well, they need a cap, so you have this, so it's not the same teams winning every year. And I said, well, you notice that it's a lot of the same teams in basketball, and it's virtually always the same teams in football. And I said, well, what did he say? He said something. He said, I'm tired of the Yankees and the Dodgers winning every year. And I said, well, then you must be in heaven, because in the last 20 years, the Yankees and Dodgers have each won the World Series a grand total of once. Dodgers won it once, the Yankees won it once. So you must be in heaven. This notion, this narrative that small market teams can't compete. Small market teams are in it all the time. People buy championships, really, really, really. They buy wins. You may be able to buy a trip to the postseason, but it's not going to buy you a championship. You still got to win those games. And a lot of people who are not, I'm in Los Angeles County right now, and there's a tremendous amount of excitement for the arrival of Shohei Ohtani. In other words, people who didn't want to drive down to Orange County now could see Shohei Ohtani play at Dodger Stadium. I don't think the Dodgers are going to win the World Series this year. I don't think they're going to get into the World Series this year. I think they're going to lose in the playoffs again. I think they may win 158 games, but I am not going to pick them to go to the World Series. Nor am I going to pick the Yankees. Nor am I going to pick the defending champion Rangers. Here's the deal. I think there's one team that is in the National League that I think is perfectly designed for a postseason. It may not be designed to win the division. They may not win the division. But there's one team that I look at and go like, that is a monster designed to win playoff series, especially if everything fires on all cylinders, which it very well might. And I think there's another team in the American League, which is going to be there's much more parity in the American League. And it's a much harder division to, or much harder league to make any heads or tails out of, make any predictions of. But I'm going to make my ridiculously early World Series prediction. And this is going to stand as my preseason prediction. Do I think it's going to be the Rangers? No. Do I think it's going to be the Astros? No. Do I think it's going to be Los Angeles? No. Do I think it's going to be Atlanta? No. Do I think any team in the Central is going to get in? Absolutely not. Do I think that it's going to be a California team? Actually, no. What do I think is going to happen? Well, you'll hear in my predictions, I picked the Tigers to win the American League Central because I think only 85 wins are going to go there. I think there's a couple of teams that are going to win 100 games. But in terms of who do I think is going to go to the World Series? Well, folks, here is my ridiculously early prediction. And the fan bases of these two teams should scream in agony because my picks are almost always wrong. But I believe this October, we are going to party like it's 1983. That's right. I'm picking a Baltimore Philadelphia World Series. Now, it only takes like about an hour, hour and a half to get from Baltimore to Philadelphia. You would not know that if you saw the movie 12 Monkeys. However, that tiny distance will be for the world. I look at this Baltimore team. I like their pitching. I like their hitting. I like their youth. I like the fact that they have the wherewithal to make some big trades if they need anything. I like the fact that the cloud of we can't trust our ownership has been removed. I think they're going to have the Cy Young Award winner. I like everything about the team that won 100 games last year. And Philadelphia, I think, is a Frankenstein's monster that is designed to win postseason games. I think they're going to win 90 to 95 games. And I think they have the pitching staff. I think they have the lineup. I think they have the postseason experience. And I think the Phillies are going to play the Baltimore Orioles. And the Phillies are going to win. This is going to be Bryce Harper's year to win a championship. This is going to be the year that Philadelphia fans are going to look and say, holy cow, we've just won our third title. And Baltimore fans will be re-energized, thinking, holy cow, this is what winning feels like. Now, I, of course, have just doomed both of those franchises, but I don't really care. That's my pick, and I'm sticking with it. Is TV confusing for you? It used to be easy. You had the channels, then you had cable. Now you have a million services. It's time to make TV easy again. It's time for Fire TV. It is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TV, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV. Get access to millions of movies, TV episodes, as well as free and live television. Whether it's the college basketball tournament or big league baseball starting up, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. And Fire TV has Fire TV channels. Check out the latest videos from your favorite sports brands for free. Locked on episodes like this show are on there. And so are many pro leagues and major conferences as well. Check out great sports, news, gaming, travel, cooking, and entertainment content. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. Learn more at Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. You know, it's the March Madness time, right? Well, it's time to say goodbye to your busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game in the tournament. Whether you're betting for a big upset or a one seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You could even pick who's going to win it all. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. FanDuel, it's America's #1 sportsbook. I alluded to this before, but let's just talk about what's going to happen for real here. Locked On, as you know, has launched the first ever national sports 24 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today. But baseball fans, mark your calendars for March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for the best Major League Baseball season preview, coming exclusively on Locked On Sports Today. On March 20th, 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, be the first to get local insight from the local Major League Baseball experts on the Locked On Podcast Network. Find it on March 20th, 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube with a free Amazon Fire TV channel app. Got a quick suggestion to make. I'm picking the Detroit Tigers to win the American League Central. Because I think they're great? No, I don't. Because I think they're a team of destiny? No. But I think the Twins are going to regress. Cleveland, I think, doesn't have the horses yet. I think Kansas City is greatly improved, but greatly improved means a 78-win season. And the White Sox are in full tank mode. They've picked up some nice young players, but they're nowhere near it. I think by default, the Tigers are going to win the division with 82 to 85 wins. That entire division is winnable. If you're Cleveland or Minnesota or Detroit for that matter, how can you not see that one extra win each month, April, May, June, July, August, September, that's 6. One extra win every single month could be the difference between winning the division or not. Does that mean you're going to go far? Probably not, but you never know. No one saw the Phillies going to the World Series a few years ago or the Diamondbacks going last year. You don't know. Punch your card and roll the dice and see what happens. And with that in mind, baseball games are going to be playing in just a couple hours in Seoul. Games that count. Jordan Montgomery is not signed. Jordan Montgomery is a legitimate major league pitcher who could help a lot of teams. JD Martinez is unsigned. He's an all-star hitter whose baseball IQ is through the charts. Michael Lorenzen was an all-star last year and played in the postseason and threw a no-hitter, and you can get him. Brandon Belt, Donovan Solano, Tommy Pham, Robbie Grossman, are any of these players the next great MVP? No, but all of them are major leaguers. All of them could potentially, if you have a hole on your team. Cleveland is the team I'm looking at. I mentioned Miami the other day, but Cleveland always has issues with their hitting. If you put Tommy Pham and JD Martinez into your lineup with a decent pitching staff, do I think that will mean that Cleveland's going to clinch a postseason spot? No, because Boston's not going to make the postseason, and Cleveland has to clinch in Boston. I mentioned that earlier in today's show. But if you have a JD Martinez and a Tommy Pham, or if you're a team that needs another arm, there's Michael Lorenzen just sitting there. There's why am I blanking on everyone? You know what I'm saying. Jordan Montgomery. I couldn't think of Jordan Montgomery's name for a second. Forgive me, it's kind of late. How is this that you're having these teams? It's a division where nothing is good. There is no very good team in that division. And if you look up and say, hey, what if we just win the division and you'd have home field advantage in the wild card series, hope you pull off a win like the Twins did last year, and then you take your chances. I've talked over and over about the lessons that we should have learned from the Braves winning the 2021 World Series. But I call it the lesson of Eddie Rosario. But if you put major leaguers in spots, you have a better chance of winning. 6 games. That's a game a month. You improve your team enough to pick up one extra win a month. Could be the difference between a totally forgotten team that's playing golf on the first day of the playoffs and a totally forgotten team that actually got to play in a couple of postseason games. Oh, but Sully, it may cost you a draft pick or it may cost you some slot money. At some point, aren't you going to actually try to win a game? At some point, aren't you saying, hey, wait a minute. What if we have turnstiles clicking in September? What if we have people watching the games in September because they know this is their games that count? At some point, that has to enter the framework, doesn't it? And you have all of these players. None of them are going to break your bank. None of them. You could say, what if you just call the ball up and say, like, hey, I'm offering all of you a 1-year, $6 million contract. I mean, that's not a lot for them. It's a lot for me. $6 million used to buy you a whole bionic man. But if you say, hey, here it is. If you want it, there it is. And if you're a team like Detroit, and you can say, what if we can steal a division title? Wake up this team, a team that has a ton of young talent, a ton of terrific talent coming through the system. And what if you just populate the team with a bunch of veterans a bunch of veterans who are filling in those spots, not for the long term. And you have the excitement, the juice, and some of those young players get to participate in a postseason series. When did that work? Not just 2021 with the Atlanta Braves, that worked with the Boston Strong Red Sox. Granted, they still had Big Poppy and Dustin Pedroia and John Lester, but the rest of that team was patchwork together. They stunk the year before, and they put major leaguers around there. They rolled the dice, and look what freaking happened. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not even saying it's probable that's going to happen. But for goodness sakes, if you can get a JD Martinez, if you could put two all-star pitchers, a pitcher who played in the All-Star game last year, a hitter who played in the All-Star game last year, and one of the most coveted pitchers at the trade deadline, and you can get them all on one-year deals and roll the dice? Would someone explain to me why you wouldn't do that? If that's the difference between a lost year and a year where it's like, hey, if no one else wants to win this, for God's sakes, why don't we? Hey, fans of daily fantasy sports, do I have a place for you? PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. This isn't you playing thousands of other players. You can pick more than or less than on a 2 to 6 player stat projection and watch the winnings roll in. Football season is over, but the action on the floor is heating up. With college basketball taking over the next month, there's no shortage of high-stake tournaments. Turn your hoops knowledge into some serious cash. You want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like Meek Hill or Sugar Sean O'Malley? You can find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries of some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. I'm going to play this week, and I expect Devin Booker to give me more than 30 points and Jason Tatum of my Celtics to pull down 10 rebounds. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a deposit match up to $100. Once again, download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more. Pick less. You know what? It's that easy. Quick reminder, Locked On has begun the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's now available on the Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV's channel app. I every year post my In Memoriam video. It's not on the Locked On MLB feed because of copyright reasons. I don't make any money off of it. I just enjoy doing it. But if you follow me at Sully Baseball on Twitter or whatever it's called now, or on Instagram, Sully Baseball Podcast, I have the links to it to my own personal YouTube page where it goes on. And every year, I used to do it at the All-Star game, but starting at the COVID year, I now do it at the start of the season. And I think that that's a way to sort of kick off the year. I mean, it's a sad way to kick off the year, but to pay tribute is before we begin a new season and build new memories. Let's look at some of the players who were there, who we were part of our great love of this game. And, baseball has the illusion of being the past, present, and future all happening simultaneously. But we get, sobering reminders that life moves on. And I just launched it today. And as always, I have it, I based it upon the way that they used to do the In Memoriam videos at the Oscars, mainly the ways that they did it in the 80s and the 90s, where it was really beautiful, and find a dramatic piece of music from the movies. I pulled a clip from Unforgiven by Lenny Niehaus, and Clint Eastwood did the music for that. It's called Claudia's Theme, and it's the end credits of Unforgiven, which is a great movie. And when I do the In Memoriam video, it takes a lot of work. I can't do it overnight. I have to find the piece of music. I have to listen to the piece of music over and over and over again and try to get the rhythm of it and try to get the points of where the music goes up, where it goes down, where there are beats that you can edit to. And you get used to the music, and you sort of, oh, at this point the music gets dramatic, so I want to put you want to put a real a heart wrenching one there. And yeah, I unabashedly try to pull the heartstrings on it. And when I do it, I always try to start with a big name. And I always try to end it with a big name. And then throughout the way, there's like, I see what are the 5 or 6 ones that are going to really have the biggest emotional wallop. And there are people this year, like Vida Blue and Tim Wakefield and Bud Harrelson and Brooks Robinson, Roger Craig, a lot of people who they mean a lot to a lot of people. And so I try to arrange it so, there's sometimes I just show like some slides of some still images of people, but I try my best to have as many moving parts as well, if not with sound, because it's more interesting if it has video instead of just still pictures. Inevitably, there's some people who fall through the cracks, and that's why I say here are some of the names. And there's a couple of things that were really hard to do on this one. Uh, there was a guy named Jim Price, who's the one of the announcers for the Tigers. I couldn't find uh, a good beat for him. I couldn't find a good uh, uh, sound bite. And when it's an announcer, I try my best to have a good sound bite for them. And um, and I couldn't find one that really worked. By the way, Scott Bentley of Locked On Tigers helped me out, helped me find a good piece for that. But yeah, I mean, there are some of them were hard to do, and one of the ones I found really difficult was I wanted Roger Craig, who is this great folksy attitude to him and as a quote machine. I thought I'd be able to pull a quote, and I couldn't find one that was succinct. You could find a great clip. There's a wonderful clip of the late Ed Ott basically getting an inside the park home run, but it just was too long a clip. It would have been like, is this the Ed Ott show? You try to keep it, you try to stay on some of them to let them breathe, but you also have to, you can't have it be a 20-minute long one. A few years ago, I did have one that went very long, like 10 minutes, but that's because there were 9 Hall of Famers died. So you got to pay tribute to the ones. So this was a hard one to do, and there was a sound clip for the final one, the last name, which is a bit of a wallop. And I heard a sound clip, a bite, and I said, "That's our last one. That's the last line. That's got to be the thing that wrenches, pulls out the heart." But the problem that I had was that the sound, whoever recorded the sound of this event where this person said the really heartbreaking line, I'm convinced they were using the original telephone invented by Alexander Graham Bell. I mean, the sound was so horrible. It sounded so tinny and nasty. And I'm not a huge sound guy, but I'm like, I can't end the video with that. And it isn't like it's like we found a recording of Grover Cleveland Alexander in 1928. No, it was recorded in like 2012 in high def, but the sound of it was horrible. And it broke my heart because it was a fabulous, great line. And I spent over an hour going through the internet trying to find, did this person say this line somewhere else? And after a long search where I was about to throw in the towel, I found it. And a radio broadcast of the same event, they actually brought in good microphones. So there you go. So please, please, please follow me at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter but also follow me at Sully Baseball on Twitter, where the pinned tweet is the latest edition of the In Memoriam video. And if you like the video, if it made you cry, if it pulled at some heartstrings, please share it. Share it. I'd love to see it be shared with a lot of people, because that's why I do it. Obviously, I make no money on it. This is something I do purely for the love of baseball and paying tribute to people. So I'm going to go to bed. And part of the problem I have with starting the season like this is when I wake up, a game will already been played. I'm not staying up to watch this game. But here's a trivia question. What team was the last team to begin the season overseas when they had one of those starting the season in another country series? What was the last team to start the season overseas and then go on to make the postseason? That's the trivia question we have for today. So, hey everyone, let's wake up to baseball. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now, or on Instagram. I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Going to bed and waking up to baseball, making a few predictions, making a few suggestions, and saying farewell in the In Memoriam video. This has been Locked On MLB. It's now the 20th day of March, 2024. Let's play ball, and you can call me Sully.